Jace knows that Allie and I eat at every meeting.
I actually am known for the same thing. So
I mean,
not here, not in NASPA necessarily, but yeah.
But this is new level. I'm about to eat a leftover turkey burger, y'all. Like this could get ugly. So like if I take my video off, that's why.
That's funny. Well, and I want to say, I noticed David's haircut in that picture that Mallory posted yesterday. I was like, oh, what's going on here? This is like that's a new style.
Yeah. So my barber Tristan convinced me to do a fade. He said, "Do you want to do a fade?" I said, "I don't know what that is," and so I said yes, and it does feel very different. But thank you.
Yeah. I was like, what's happening in that picture over there? I can't really bet. So. Well, thank you for gathering on this lovely Friday morning still for us. And, right, are we all still morning? Are we all in?
Allie's in.
Oh, right, you're not.
Of course.
Right.
It depends. Can I put my pajamas back on?
The answer is yes.
I'll be right back.
The answer is always yes. So, so we had a really fun conversation the last time. And I'm hoping that with David here, that will also continue. We'll see. No, I'm just kidding. But we were talking about expanding. I took notes, right?
You did.
I did because I shared them.
You did.
I did. Okay, let's find those. Let's find HSWB. Nope. EISJ. HSWB. Ugh, y'all, I am terrible.
You know, when Jace responded yesterday, he responded to your message with your notes.
Hey, see?
That's an easier, because that's how
I
pulled them up.
Yes. I mean, the good thing is that I'm recording my incompetence here, which I'm super excited about.
I actually even archived this conversation, which I'm pretty excited that I was able to remember where I filed them. So I'm happy to forward them to you if that is helpful.
Nice. Well, okay. I do have my notes now. Thank you for that tip. Okie dokie. Okay. We agreed on next step was gathering this group again. So perfect.
Done.
Amazing.
Big check. Big check. Big
We're
check.
done. I think we're pretty good to go. It's Friday, right? Or I'm good to go. So just to kind of bring us all back, we had this fun conversation, then Mallory's a part of something, right? So we all know where we are. I don't need to really regroup too much.
Right.
But we did have some conversation last time, and David, I know you responded to this, that things were still a little bit up in the air with this AVP group, but that maybe this is a well-timed conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things that we got excited about, and that I think Jace continues to be excited about, is maybe some sort of short course. I think David and I had initially said, maybe we could do a series of webinars, which could still be an option, but maybe we think about a short course, and then also adding some questions to our evaluations. So both of which are timely questions. So I don't know which you want to go to yet. Yeah. There was also this piece about analyzing for intersections of content. So
I think we should start with conference evaluations, just because isn't your conference next week?
No.
It feels very soon, Monica. It feels
not
very
next
soon.
week.
It feels very soon.
No, it is not next week. It is, but it's less than a month away. So
see, this is what I'm saying.
Actually, it starts exactly 1 month from today. So yes. But yes, I think conference evaluation would be a grand place to start. So,
and
so
looking at the notes, it looks like there were two ways that we wanted to go about this. One was a formal add to the Jess Hop part of the evaluation, and then another was taking a look at where we could gather information either formally or informally. You mentioned dinner conversations that are organic. I think we could think about what 20 by 30 is doing, Mallory, and see if we can steal some of their space, since they claim that they're very into EDI. So we should take advantage of that. But what question are we trying to answer, I think, is kind of where I'd love to spend a little bit of our brain energy on that.
Yeah. I mean, is it a formative kind of question? Like, what do you want to see? Or a vision kind of question? Or is it, what did you experience in terms of whether or not these were examined?
Oh.
But that's probably less, I don't know. Like, in what ways did issues of health, safety, and well-being show up at NMI? And in what ways did EISJ issues show up in strategies? But that's not a great way to ask that question. But
well, I actually think it's not a terrible way to ask the question. I think if we framed it and said, hey, we made an intentional effort. Let me use actual words. We made an intentional effort to include some cross-collaborative topics. So for NMI, we made an intentional effort to include some health topics as part of this work. Do you feel like you were exposed to that? Do you feel like you had the opportunity to do that? If you want to do that, do you think that met your need? And obviously this all needs workshopped and improved. And then similarly, at Strategies, we took a real critical eye about making sure that our conference presentations included the conversation about equity in them. Do you feel like that was represented through the events you attended? And I would just make this an optional question of the survey, and or for the formal part of this. And then for the informal part, I think we would need to think about what conversations are being generated at the Hyatt for both of our events.
I like the, I was a part of some group with enrollment management one time, and we asked people to rate these various things, and then, asked, did you, is this important to you? And then how do we do, right? And
that's cool. I like that a lot. So could it be like a two-parter? Health is important to me. Yes. We made an intentional effort to try to include some aspects of health at this conference. Did that meet your need? Yes or no? Same thing for equity, diversity, and inclusion as we look at the Strategies Conference. I like that a lot. That also gives us a data point of how many attendees actually care about these things, or is it just the four of us?
Sidebar, I think I added discussing the evaluation to our upcoming meeting next week, the last strategies meeting that we're having. David, you're doing one more strategies meeting on Thursday, is that right?
Thursday, and then we have a big one on Monday, which is the last meeting before I'm gone forever.
Right, forever and ever, amen. So I have added the evaluation to the meeting notes for the 14th, so I can amend them to include this discussion, so the timing is good for this moment.
Well, I think whatever we develop, Jess can make twice, and that's really what we want to do, is sort of follow the exact same infrastructure on each of the two Qualtrics I.
So do we want to have the committees kind of workshop that, or just us with Jess, or in terms of follow-up or making this happen?
I would prefer not to involve my committees on this.
I would say the same thing.
Oh, great. Fabulous. Then let's not.
Great. Okay.
Should have muted the recording for that.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel very
I actually
inclusive.
prefer not to use member.
It doesn't feel inclusive, but it feels efficient. That's
right. Yes. I'm all for efficient right now, but yes.
I mean, meta-analysis, I would like to, for strategies at least, be much more selective of conference committee participation based on knowledge and interest in equity, inclusion, and social justice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've got some not bad actors, but certainly not good actors who are part of some of these conversations.
Yeah.
Who will detract, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that's a Jess Hop. I'll do Monica. And who from your group would like to be involved in this? Just a quick, what I'll probably do is just send Jess Hop, this is what we're thinking.
Yep.
And then, if she wants to either get together to ask more about what we're trying to do, which she might, or she might just respond by email, in which case that'd be easy. But I'd be glad not to include the whole group if you want to.
I'm the person charged working with evaluation. That's
Allie.
my list of things to do to bring this up on our meeting. So I seem like the right person to include.
Okay, great. Okay.
I noticed that.
Okay. We also have this structure thing in the NMI called Dinner and Dialogue on Monday night. So we send people off to various places, and our committee members agree to hold some space for different topics. But they vary. So some of them, some are caucuses, some are topical. So I can have this be one of the topics that people can sign up for. That's another way to gauge interest. Like, do people want to go to this?
Do you think you've got a member who would feel like a good leader on that?
From the committee, I don't know, but I could probably find a presenter. I might, like Sophia Pertuse might be someone.
Fabulous.
She's presenting, so I might tap her. So
yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Okay.
Or I'm happy to look at your committee list and see if there's any other names that pop out.
Okay. Yeah, I have a email to the committee of like, here are the things you need to do before the meeting and before we get together. So, like their volunteer assignments. So this will be one of them.
Yeah.
Cool. Other informal you all talked about? I can't remember what you just said. But.
So we don't have that kind of structure for strategies. The thought of anyone eating dinner is foreign to me at this conference. I think at 5 o'clock everyone just stops. And I can't think of anything else right now, Monica. Right. But we have a partnership with NYU and their 20 by 30 initiative, improving the lives of 20 million college students by the year 2030. And NASPA is a partner in that somehow. Anyway, we're going to give them some space and some tables. So I wonder if one of the ways that we could, I beg your pardon, they're going to engage with some dialogue for members. And I just wonder if one of the prompts Mallory and I can try to effuse into them is to have some conversation around EDI.
Great.
So Mallory and I will be in New York next week for the 20 by 30 Transformathon.
I want to I feel like you're going to become a robot and run a marathon, but is that not?
I mean, you know what? The bar's pretty low, so okay. I won't be there for half the damn thing. I have to go talk at APLU, so I have 4 minutes to talk to college presidents about mental health.
You could talk like an auctioneer? I don't know.
I hear there's a crisis. I wonder if they've heard that there's a crisis.
Listen, there's a crisis. You can't hire your way out of it. We got to get upstream. You should fund prevention and holistic work. And by the way, there's not a lot you can really do, for better or worse, because there's no way you can possibly create resiliency in a marginalized population whose country is telling them that they're a bad person because of the color of their skin. Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful rest of the conference. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
That was 30 seconds. I mean, anything what you're presenting is 8 times as long. So I think you're going to be great.
That's kind.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, these are great strategies and multi. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Now for the other more ideation part. Now, Jay said he may be able to join, right? Definitely going to be late. Okay.
He's running really late, so I don't think we should count on him.
Okay, great.
It's funny as I'm looking at the notes because I remember saying it's almost like a mini collective because we talked about a cohort-based model. Sorry, were you going to go to the short course? Is that where you were going? Did I jump your gun? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. My head was ruminating on what we talked about last time and trying to mash up this because we wrote mini collective because I remember there's a discussion of cohort-based, but as I'm rereading the notes, I'm like, wow, this is totally just this is an EDI foundations. This is culture of respect foundations, but for EDI, the way we have it written here. And I'm just trying to remember if that's what we intentionally said or if I'm retrofitting that, having just talked a lot about foundations with David this morning.
I do remember you making that comment of, oh, we have a model to create this foundational knowledge, if that was, because we talked about approaching it in two different ways, right? We talked about from the ground up and top down, as around practitioners on the ground who need a better understanding around equity and what that means and what that looks like potentially for their campus and blah, blah, blah. So we talked about a foundational. And then we talked about a systematics approach, which is where the AVP, VP conversation kind of came into. So you're not wrong, Allie.
Remind me where the cohort part came in though, because I remember that there was discussion of that.
Because I think we talked about we could do a series of webinars based on different topics, and you're like, oh, it sounds like a foundations.
Well,
if only
no,
I had only gone through something like that.
The course is foundations, but the series of webinars is almost like the collective cohort. So I'm just mashing up all my ideas at once, but it's fine. They're all good ideas we have here.
I mean, I like the idea.
My dad has called me twice,
Oh.
so I am just going to
do it.
Call him back really quickly, so I'm going to put myself on mute. Okay.
Absolutely.
Talk
amongst yourselves. I like the idea of maybe some sort of, and it doesn't even have to be foundational level, but I'm going to use that as the way to think about it. How do we communicate this framework across a couple different issues and topics that could be self-contained in a foundations-like course?
I'm thinking, part of me is thinking like, we could totally recreate something like a foundations where it's curated content and you have to like progress through it and blah, 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 certificate of completion or whatever, a similar model. Alternatively, is there a world in which yes?
No, sorry, you finish your thought.
Where we do a series of webinars and then somehow bundle them into a package, and that becomes in and of itself a short course, and we're kind of getting dual purpose out of the content. Like we could have folks who are registering for it live in the OLC, but then once it's bundled, it gets a second life as part of a bundled course.
Perhaps. So my finger thought was, if we did bundle this together and make a short course out of it, I wonder if this could be not a standalone product, not just a standalone product, but also a co-enrollment for folks who register for one of the two conferences that we have to offer moving forward. And so we take this intentionality to the next level and say, we've really built something that we think speaks to the idea that students, and maybe even we loop in Eshe, student success, health, the health of a person in a population, and the idea of looking at systems of power and privilege and oppression, all really tie together. And we want to make sure that by making a decision to come to one of NASPA's professional development events, you get access to some of this foundational information so that you can hit the ground running when you show up in New Orleans or wherever we decide to co-locate all of our events in the future.
I like that. I mean, it's a little bit like, we could even seed some conversations through that we continue on site.
Right.
In any of these spaces. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think the adding of student success to that is maybe we get Sarah and Omari in these conversations as well, not to try to like overdo it. I'm sorry. I know that's how I am. But it really is this idea that maybe there is this, you're coming to one of these events, there's issues that tie together in this. We're not going to overdo it. Maybe it's just a couple hours and you can skip around and pick what you want to engage with. But that we're going to use common language and common theories and models throughout. And, it's 101. And so I did go back to foundations, I suppose. But it's sort of, one of the things that I have always felt like is such a big sell for multi and such a big sell for strategies, and I imagine as a sell for student success, I'm just not familiar with it, is that, and I don't know how to market this, and I've talked to Matt about it, but the marketing can almost be, come to a place where you don't have to tell people what your job is.
Right.
Because everyone gets it.
100%.
Yeah.
And sorry to take this there, but that is exactly what the feeling was at anything NERSA. That was what created this like community.
Right.
You don't have to explain what you do. People know what you do. Let's move past that and talk about the thing. Sorry, that was just like a big trigger for me. I'm like, that takes me back.
Yeah.
Well, then I think what it also creates for the three topic areas that we're sort of talking through is that now we could have a standalone product that someone can engage with if they don't go to these professional development events, that both acts as a entry point for maybe graduate students, new professionals who could enter into this work. We're making a huge value add for members who are engaging our professional development. Feels like win-win-win. And it doesn't seem like it would be a huge production it seems like something we could get done in the next 9 months.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing, so I mean, we get a break on multi because we only do it every other year, but we could then, we've got the capacity to be involved with whatever we develop for next strategies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea of, because there's this sense of like, you don't have to tell people what your job is. But we also know like your jobs are more complex than people who are not in your job know.
Right.
And so we know that you're thinking, DEI folks, we know you're thinking about well-being and health and safety. Other people may not because they think you only do this.
Right.
So we're recognizing that and providing a platform for you to engage around these topics, right? Health, safety, and well-being people, like we know you are thinking about equity issues. And so
you had better be.
Right. And so, but people may not understand that. And so here's a way to, so anyway, I like this idea a lot.
Yeah.
And I like, I like letting people know that we're intentional about our frameworks across the ways that we work with different communities. So,
part of what you and I in particular, Monica, might want to flag in our futures is if we wanted to do a kickoff with maybe you, Amari, and I, we'd want to think about the times in which we are all in the same physical space, which is February and then August. So,
right.
There's a non-zero in March, but we're all going to be,
right.
scatter.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's some value in thinking about maybe even just grabbing some time where we could sit in front of a camera and say, this was our vision of this, and this is what we hope it can do for you. And thank you for being engaged in this really collaborative work, because that's the only way it gets done. And please enjoy.
I like it.
I tell you, it's silly, but when you don't have it and you want it, you're like, how do I get this? You are muted, Monica.
Thank you.
You looked super excited.
I know. I think it's then mapping out a short course, right? Like so it's, what is it called? Like when you put something storyboarding sort of thing. Yep. Okay.
And this is some of the ways we might actually want to get volunteers engaged in to help create and craft.
We love you, volunteers, in case you listen to this video.
Yeah, exactly. This is totally accessible to you all. We are paid by your dues. Thank you so much for your time and energy and commitment to this work. But this is where I think I'd love to tap on a couple shoulders of folks that we think are really exceptional, or even new voices who may be able to go over some of the information on how this works together.
Yeah.
Mallory, I'm particularly not interested in some old guard on this. I think there can be some new folks who have conversations.
I think we're on the same wave there.
Great.
Okay. So we would want to we want to just come together, like tap some or generate some ideas for volunteers, right? Okay, so generate volunteer ideas. People.
Yep.
Okay. All. That's everyone. Generate potential volunteers. Everyone.
I'm sort of flowcharting this out on.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So one thing that we probably will want to do is talk to Stephanie and Tiki about this. Maybe at our next ProDev huddle that I was sick for the last time. I apologize. So we could have done this sooner. My bad.
We didn't meet, so you're okay. You're good.
Okay, great. and if such a time does not arrive, maybe we could just do it in email. But it would be cool to know where this fell on the feasibility. But I think we can sketch some stuff out now. But before we reach out to volunteers and start to get content, it would feel really good to feel like this was a good place to spend some time and energy. I don't think that this is going to be a resource investment that we end up making. I think this can all either be handled in-house or at very low cost.
I agree.
Okay.
And will hopefully generate at least a little moderate amount of revenue. So
Right. I mean, I think for me, what is sort of driving me at the moment is the thought of the increased value proposition for our professional development, our in-person professional development events. Wow, that was a really big, I think I was just out of breath. But it does feel like we could create a market, especially for new folks in the field and graduate students. Like if this was available to graduate students for $95, I think I could see some folks being willing to go like, oh, I definitely love to see NASPA's sort of like vision of this, or I could even see faculty assigning it.
Yeah. We did talk last time about, I think thinking about foundational, this is a part of that storyboarding, I guess, but the foundational content and then highlighting innovative approaches or programs or things like that. We also talked about, this was the cohort piece, but having institutions that might have teams of people participate so that in between they could talk about what was in the last module, and see, if there's so I think in terms of the assessment strategy for this, we'd want to think through that. Their levels of participation. Do we just kind of develop this and then pitch it out to everyone? Do we kind of roll it out in some strategic way? So
this is really, this is actually really exciting. I mean, I think this is kind of what drives us forward. So I've just sort of sketched out that we might have some separate modules around student success, health, safety, well-being, and EISJ around maybe where those fields came to their models from, just so that everyone's got a 10 to 15 minute introduction to these concepts and theories, getting some of that first gen work navigated into student success, frame that into higher education and student affairs. Why NASPA? Why higher ed? Because these exist way beyond that. Do some optional break-intos for a course that I think would just be that sort of like, do you want to learn more on coalition building, case studies, the innovative programs that we've heard about and have been referenced, and that could be something that gets continuously added to. So these optional parts could be the more dynamic aspect, and then close by talking about systems and policy, the way in which education then contributes to public good, why each of these areas are then responsible for supporting higher education's overall mission in society. And then be like, thank you so much. Don't forget to renew your NASPA membership. Have a good day.
And come to these conferences. Yeah, come to these conferences.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. No.
I'm really glad we recorded this because there's no way I'm going to understand what this means later. But future self, this is what you were thinking.
I love it. Just
paste it to the wall.
Future David, take a note. I love everything you just said. I don't know where this would be appropriate, but it feels like so many of these topics are like ripe for more thoughtful, in-depth conversations. Like we were talking about the cohort part, just in terms of like, what'd you miss on the last kind of thing, or what'd you think of it? But I would love to keep in the back of our mind that we should keep our eyes out for opportunities where we could like bring this, into a living space where people can have kind of some more difficult conversations around these topics. I don't know how to fit that into the beautiful visual that David created, but I'm just going to try to keep that in the back of my head.
Well, here's the deal. We will know who participated. So anytime there's an event where we're convening members and we know who has participated in this, they could be invited for follow-up conversations that happen in a meet space, which might be a really great strategy to utilize in that. We'd be able to do it at annual, NMI, strategy, student success, but even like if there was enough of a, enough number. There's a fancier word for that.
Critical mass.
Yeah, like a critical mass. We could do it at military connected. And you could find a volunteer who really, really loved the way that these worked together and wanted to add that military connected lens upon it. And all of a sudden, we're talking about the ways in which these issues do really effuse across student affairs and the dynamics of practitioners and administrators within that, which feels like, that's why I think it's really great to get Tiki involved, because it feels like it really ends up being a professional development tentpole to run some things around.
Right. I like it. I love that. It occurred to me to wonder, so 2 just data points, right? I mean, I think this is needed and we should develop it anyway, right? But I am thinking about like, what's the demand for it, right? Like, how would we demonstrate that people are interested in this? And I think there are a couple of things, right? You know, there are positions being created that on campuses that integrate all of these elements. You know, that the conversations that you're having with this AVP group, you know, conversations that are happening at NATAHE at different spaces, right? Like people are talking about well-being. So I think, you know, there's some at least conversation happening. We did talk at some point about looking at maybe programs for the past couple of times just to see like, does it look like there's some cross content? And then it just occurred to me that I wonder if there's cross registrations for some of our events, right? Like, you know, do people go to, I mean, I know people go to, you know, different things, like, do they go to strategies and NMI, or do they go to SE? And so anyway, that just might be another, it could be an intern project.
So the thing that's coming to mind for me that I just want to, I think I said in the last meeting, but the well-being research stuff that's going to be happening over the next year, I think might also lend a why we need this, because I have a feeling EISJ topics are going to come up within that research, and we're going to learn some things. That's the hope anyways, right? So I think there's going to be a layer of that'll influence potentially offerings or topics or best practices.
Right.
What's the name of that group, Mallory?
So that's from the Inter-Association Wellbeing Research Opportunity that has a soft launch of this past Monday. So there's an application that we've created for a research around well-being. And what does that mean?
What is well-being?
What is well-being?
Why do people keep putting on their strategic plan without a definition for it?
Yeah. How do you achieve it? What are some models? What are the things? It's a buzzword right now.
It is a buzzword right now.
So we're trying to make it more concrete, maybe? Yeah.
I can do my slide where I say it's not yoga and eating salad.
It's not standing desks.
Not a standing desk. Standing desks are not well-being. Well-being is a way that.
But it's so nice to feel smug. Come on.
I do love some smugness. Let's never kid ourselves with that. Let's never ever kid ourselves.
And so then Jace will take all of what we've done.
Great timing, Jace.
Jace
for it.
Oh man, that was a bummer.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping Jace wasn't here because when you're not at a meeting, people can just assign you.
We didn't talk to Tiki about that, sir.
We already flagged Tiki for this.
Hi, y'all. Sorry about that.
Hi.
Doctor's appointments, you know how they can go. Oh, I'm good. I'm great.
Good.
How are you all?
Very well.
Yeah.
As long as there are no follow-up questions.
Mm-hmm. So we did record, Jace, so I will send this.
Thank you.
And
are you finishing up? Am I catching you?
We're getting.
Okay. All right. Great.
I mean, but we've, it's not like we're done. So we've talked about a couple things. Just we talked about evaluations and maybe some dialogue opportunities at strategies and NMI because those were time sensitive. And then we talked some about this online content development. And an initial step is that David and I are going to talk with Tiki and Stephanie Gordon. We meet sometimes weekly for a professional development huddle. So that's terrible. Is this being recorded? Whoops.
Yeah.
Is microphone on?
You know what? We meet by design weekly.
Yes. So we will just kind of pitch this, see how it lands, and then based on that, David's got a flow chart and he's developed the course content already. But anyway, no, he started mapping out. Yes.
Well, and Jason, here's one of the things that we thought about, and maybe you can give some insight on how much work we've created. Because I know this has been something that's been on our interest level for a very long time.
Yes.
We considered actually adding student success as a third type of heat for this. And so talking about some of the background and theoretical basis of student success, health, safety, well-being, and equity, inclusion, and social justice, maybe even adding some layers of first gen, some of the well-being research, and some of the things that we do out of our commissions, not commissions, that's ACVA, good Lord, knowledge communities. Then tying that all together into a systems framework, talking about policy, how higher ed and student affairs tie to this, and making this short course be an auto enrollment for anyone who registers for one of those three events: NMI, student success, or strategies. Selling it as a separate product, maybe to grad students in particular. Selling it as a separate product, but really just saying, we've made a commitment that if you're going to come to a professional development event about one of these things that we know is super connected to the others, we're going to put a little bit of information in front of you as part of that registration. It's value add, except for grad students, we're going to charge them money.
Okay. Okay. So which part are you asking me is the which part of that are you asking me is the lift? Is it the automatic? I think that's going to be a lead ballooning a little bit, because I remember this being a bit of we tried to do this with like a book product, right? And it was like, with a book product, it's a different story. We may be able to attach, and I have to look at what our events pages looks like, because I don't create generally regular events all that often. I'm usually in the live event category. If we can get it, it might just take some. There actually might not be that much, but it kind of depends. We would want to have Courtney in on it, and yeah. Because there's a field on a live event that I write that has it's an OLC, it says OLC or Matrix Event ID, something like this, and that's what currently hooks somebody into our LMS. So if that field is populated, then they can click on it and get enrolled into the course. So in theory, it should be possible for us to put that field and populate it on a regular event. And then if it's going to be for everybody who registers, it's not a separate thing they have to get as an additional product.
Yeah.
Then it actually might not be as hard than if we were trying to have it as an add-on type of situation.
And I also know what I can do is download a registration list every Friday and just upload it to you, and we can just, we can shove this into the system.
Yes, we can do it in any number of manual ways as well.
Yeah, that would cause pain and suffering. So
all of this is also contingent upon whatever LMS we have. So
that's a problem for Future Jace.
Shrug emoji, exactly. So we can. Well,
listen. Future Jace could have a hoverboard that flies around the city.
Future Jace can have a lot of things.
Future Jace could have won the lottery. So I say screw Future Jace. That's his problem.
Right. Sure. Future Jace thanks you for your consideration.
This is why I constantly lament Past David, because Past David has always screwing me over.
Well, let's put it this way. I don't want that to be the thing that hangs us up on not making that a possibility. If that's something that we really want to do, we will figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah. It just feels like we could do some webinars and bundle them together and sell them as this "we work together, you should too" thing. But the idea of creating this course with some optional content, some streamlined content, that folks can go to and we can create some dynamicism around, just feels like actually what our mission prescribes us to do.
Yeah. And honestly, you're not going to get the same level of engagement or usefulness out of just some recorded webinars, because webinars are good for a particular thing, but we're not talking about bundling together recorded webinars. We're talking about actually having targeted here, this is a short course for developing, which is a very different animal altogether. So, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Cosign.
And it feels a little choose your own adventure-y, and I think we can craft some of that into the design, because at least how I've mapped it out there, I think the opening gate is why is this higher ed, but then I think you sort of find your pathway through this. If you want to read a lot about equity, inclusion, and social justice, you spend more time on that. You want to get the basics and you just want to have conversational understanding, that's something that you can get out of this as well. Maybe by the end we just convince people why it was important for them to go back and really embrace everything.
Yeah. And one of the offshoots of this might end up being that we end up creating a community, like an online community. Of course, this does a little bit play into what LMS we have, because there are things that Matrix just does not do well, as Mallory can attest to, and Allison, Allie, yes. But I think that there are ways that we've been trying to figure out how to engage, in particular, our health, safety, and well-being audience for more than just strategies. NMI only takes place once a year. I did call you Allison. Sorry.
Yeah, I thought we were going to call with Olivia. That's what I assumed.
Allison. But so.
Yes, what did I do?
But I was reading your name and then it didn't. Anyway, so and creating a platform where people who are enrolled in NMI can participate more than just every 2 years, like having there be something that becomes potentially a more organic place where people can actually create community. I think that those things feels very good to me, to make sure that there's like a more perennial kind of way for those folks to engage with us and engage with each other. Also acknowledging the knowledge communities and the divisions and et cetera, are doing their things as well. But this is like a way that our everyday member potentially can find that connection too.
Yeah. Makes it feel like the short course is really the other 362 days, which has been the dream of mine, which is how do we serve our members the 362 days they're not at one of these conferences.
Yep.
Can't call it that. It's too close to 360 proof. It'll drive me up the wall. I'll never know what I'm working on.
We're not going to call it that. Don't worry.
I don't know what 360.
I'm only going to call it that.
The 362 project.
Yo, I have to interview someone for my position in 15 minutes, and if this meeting is any indication, it's going to go off.
Is David there? Because that's really what makes it go off rails. Right?
I have to talk about gun violence in 15 minutes.
I sense everyone's will to just be an adult, just slowly fading as it goes, and it's Joey, Rachel, myself, and Jill Dunlap, and it was off the rails yesterday.
That is going to be. That's going to be fun.
It's going to be.
It's Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Noon.
Yep.
Been a long week.
Yeah. Tell my inbox that. It doesn't care.
Yeah.
Also true.
Now you're going to have to get money at 1 too.
Hey, so just so that we have maybe some headspace time between now and your next 15 minutes, or in your next 15 minutes. So I did notes. I will attach this recording and send it along to you all.
Awesome.
Thank you.
At some point, does it make, right now I just have the notes in email. I'm wondering if it makes sense if we should actually create a team drive in here, like an internal project thing in Google.
Maybe.
Is it time?
Yeah, and it also feels like we're going to expand the number of folks who are involved in this. Okay. So seeing a little bit of that in action would probably also be valuable.
Okay. I think it's time. I'm going to do that.
Okay. Only Jace gets to see the video, though.
True. You just send the video to me. I'm the only one who really needs to see
that. I need fewer people to know that I totally dissed members at the beginning of this.
What? No, that's okay.
No, can't.
We're being strategic about how we use members' time.
Members are incredibly valuable, Jace.
Right. So
sometimes we just don't ask them things.
Yeah. See, it's good. It's good.
I think part of my job is to interpret what members' wishes would be without asking them.
Right.
That's what I'm doing.
All right, y'all. Thank you. I'm just glad I like this because I get to work with such a fun group. So
you're so delightful, all of you.
I love it.
Thank you all so much for being colleagues. Allie, have a great interview. Mallory, have a good whatever you're doing between now and
Get some money for us.
Always be eating, Mal. Always be eating.
Let's get some cash, Mallory.
Okay.
Working on it.
All right.
Bye to y'all.
Always be eating. Farewell.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.